Hey gang, welcome back to the channel. Hope you guys had a good week. I'll try to keep these videos coming in every week just so you have constantly something to be working on, like we already don't have enough on our plate. But appreciate you guys hanging out. This week we got one B string on the old telly. And the reason we only have one string on the guitar this week is because sometimes the best way to expand your vocabulary, and in this case specifically like really your creativity, is to put restrictions on yourself. I know that sounds kind of counterintuitive, but a lot of the time when you put a restriction on one aspect of your playing, it forces you to dive into something else or veer off a different direction, which forces you to be creative. So, for example, in this case, we took off 5 of the other strings, so we can't do our typical pentatonic runs or anything that our muscle memory has already worked out in the past. It's going to be totally fresh for us. Everything has to be fresh because we have no other option. So I use this with a bunch of my students. It's kind of a cool concept. I learned it out of GIT in Hollywood, and I want to share it with you guys. So to start out, let's think about this globally for a second. Here in the States and in the West, we tend to like playing very vertically on the guitar neck. I think that's because that's the way we learn, right? Most of us learn our pentatonic shapes and our major scale shapes and everything in position, our open cowboy chords, everything's just kind of static right here. So we tend to play very fluidly going this way, but you really got to get to like that advanced intermediate to advanced level before you see players playing very fluidly up and down the guitar neck horizontally. So one way to kind of find some inspiration for this might be to turn our attention a little bit further east and look at like countries like India and some Middle Eastern countries, because a lot of their music, will have a few drone strings down here, and then you have one melodic string they're doing most of the work on. And what's cool about that is we can kind of infuse some of that into our own playing, not the exotic sound, whatever I just played there, but just that mindset of let's start forcing ourselves to play this way. What better way to force ourselves to play this way than remove all the strings where we can't play our regular sequences and scales, right? So this is kind of what we're going to dig into. I don't want to bog you guys down with a bunch of exercises because the whole point of this is to get us away from muscle memory. So I don't want you doing an exercise, drilling it into your muscle memory, and then it coming out over and over again. We're trying to like do something that's like truly creative and like actually purely improvise, which is very difficult. Very rarely we actually improvising. This is one thing to where I feel like I do genuinely improvise sometime, right? I'm not just restringing my same old licks together in different ways and morphing them into whatever musical context I need to. This is like truly being creative. But in order to do that, you obviously have to know where the correct notes are on the guitar neck. Every morning I do a pretty extensive practice routine where I take a key and then I do a bunch of different things with it. And one of the things I do is I play a major scale up and down every single string. So like, let's take the key of E, for example. So I'll start on my high E string, just play major scale up to the 12th fret-ish and then back down. Then I go to the B string, G string, and so on all the way down to my low E. And that's just part of the warm-ups I do every morning. And what this does is it kind of drills those scale steps into your head, right? Like not, our typical muscle memory this way, but it starts kind of keying our mind into like, okay, where's the halves and where's the whole steps, okay? And so if I'm in the key of E on my B string like I was on that intro, I know. So I know where the notes are on the guitar, obviously, right? Because I've done this exercise for so long. So I'm not thinking about, is this the right note? There's no hesitation there. My hands are going to go to where the right notes are, but because I don't have access to those other strings, I'm going to play different things, which is the whole point of this. So another thing you can do is just take your major scale, right? Like the typical E major on the B string. And start adding hammer-ons and pull-offs to it. Slides. Bends. Just put, those typical, like, very vocal-esque inflections in there. And that might be another thing you can do. Listen to a couple of vocalists or take a vocal melody and transcribe it and try to nail the nuance of where the vibratos are, where they're not vibratoing, which is also important. Where the hammer-ons, where they're kind of trills and where they fall off certain notes and things like that, and really try to capture that on one string on the guitar. It's going to make you a better guitar player. It's going to make you more lyrical. Everybody wants to sound like a singer, right? I can't sing, so I'm jealous of singers, so I try to do it here. And if you're tired of playing the same old stuff and feel like you just string the same old licks together over and over again, here's like a guaranteed way I can promise you to get out of that. Take any old guitar sitting around the house, if you have just an old junk guitar somewhere, and just leave one string on it. Just put a B string on it, for example. And take 10 minutes a day and jam on that thing. Force yourself to like play something on there for 5 or 10 minutes a day. Just put on a backing track, just jam over whatever song you like or something, or just play by yourself with it. And what's going to happen is you're going to get so bored because you're so limited with that one string that you're going to start doing creative things. And then because you're spending 5 to 10 minutes with it a day for a couple of weeks or whatever, that's going to creep into your regular guitar playing when you're back on your main acts, right? So say I have I'm jamming a solo, right? And I'm starting on from the key of E and I'm starting on my A string, doing something like the typical kind of pentatonic major run. But when I get to my G string, I'm going to try to force myself to descend down only the G string in the key of E. Okay, that's kind of cool. I might not have thought to do that unless I spent, 5 to 10 minutes a day with one guitar with one string on it. Or when I get to my B string, for example, in the key of A, so it's forcing you out of your comfort zone is what it's doing. And you're practicing getting out of your comfort zone, and then it's going to creep back into your regular comfortable playing. It's basically it's hard to explain, but I feel like you guys are getting the idea, hopefully. Okay, the last thing I want to talk about with this is what an amazing compositional tool it is. And the reason I say this is because a lot of the time, say I'm playing on a record, and there's like the dreaded 4-bar modern country intro, right? Every modern country song has a typical 4-bar intro, and the producer wants some catchy signature kind of guitar lick on the first 4 bars or a simple melody that repeats. And you're like, oh crap, make sure I don't play what I played on the last 3 records, And a good way to do that is to use the single string thing, or at least, start with that as a starting point for your melody and come up with something like that. I just pulled that on my butt. Let's do another one here. That sucks. A little less suck. Those are both horrible examples. They're on the fly. But this is what we do on a session. We come up with things. Producer's like, no, I don't like that. Do something else. We give them 17 options, right? Or if we're doing it remotely, we do a couple options and we kind of refine it and pick whichever one we think suits the song and serves the vocal melody the best generally. But it's a great compositional tool. Say you're just writing songs as well. Come up with a chord progression, record that on your iPhone or whatever. And it could be something simple like... It's pretty, it's simple. Okay, I just played that on guitar, but that's super singable. Now take that melody we just wrote on guitar and apply words to it. So then you can play your song, right? You're playing your chords and you're singing that melody you wrote on guitar. But you might not have thought to kind of come up with that melody if you just started singing it in the first place because it came out of your hands first. It's a slightly different pathway through your mind, right? So we're forcing the creativity. I know that sounds weird because creativity should be forced, but that's kind of what it's doing, right? It's forcing you to be creative. It's getting out of your comfort zone and out of your box. Hope you all enjoyed this and got something out of it. I teach privately as well, so if any of you guys are interested in private lessons, just go over to my Instagram. It's like Nicky V Music. You should be able to find me. And shoot me a DM on there, and I'll guys give you the info on that. I do a bunch on Skype. I teach here privately in Nashville as well. Love to work with you guys. I genuinely love teaching. And so I do this channel, and I hope you guys are enjoying it. If you are, please like and subscribe. That really helps the channel out, guys. And leave a comment if you like this or if you have any questions. I do my best to answer every one of them. But I do truly appreciate each of you guys spending time here with me. I try to pretend the camera's, one of you guys sitting across and we're just here hanging out. But it's one-way conversation. So leave a comment. Appreciate you guys. Thanks.